Hello and welcome to the Center for Spiritually Integrated Arts, a Centers for Spiritual Living teaching center. I am Reverend Dr. Raymont Anderson. I am the founder and the spiritual director. Now, as you are sitting there joining us, you may have questions, any number of questions, such as, who am I? How did I get here? Spiritually integrated arts means what exactly? What is a teaching center? Well, what is Centers for Spiritual Living? What is that? What does that even mean? Or New Thought, or religious science, or science of mind and spirit? You may have any number of questions about this specific community, about the parent organization, CSL, our philosophy, our teaching, our liberation theology. Any number of questions. Feel free to send an email. We look forward to connecting more and building our virtual community, our global community. And if you haven't connected yet on social media, feel free to do so. This is your invitation now. Also, did you know that all of our Sunday messages are archived on our YouTube channel? You can watch it anytime. Now, questions about anything, such as becoming a member. What does that mean? What does membership entail? And if you live somewhere far and already belong to a spiritual community, can you be a member of more than one? The simple answer is yes, you can. Just like you can shop at more than one grocery store, you can attend or be a member of more than one gym. We are building beloved community. So you can do both. You can be a member of both. You can be involved with both. That's what being in spiritual community means. So we welcome you. We invite you. We are so appreciative that you have found this community and that you have joined us today. We bless you. We love you. We welcome you. Live long and prosper. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the rest of our Sunday message. Love you. Connect with you soon. Blessings. Namaste, greetings, and welcome to March. Did you say March? It's already March. Wow. Today we are talking about, well, the theme for the month is the flow of coming and going. And today we are talking about navigating the tides of life. Navigating the tides of life. Change is constant. The world can feel like a sea of constantly changing ups and downs. Waves come in and go out because, in fact, it is a sea of constantly changing tides. Today, we ask, how are we supposed to navigate these tides then? And how are we supposed to stay true to our divinity in the midst of these changes? And how do we embody and express this ability, this divinity in transformative ways, no matter what's going on around us? Life happens. How are we happening with it? Now, slight pause, breaking news. You may or may not know that these messages, so me talking to you now, was actually recorded a while back, a couple of weeks ago. And I want to specifically mention and address what's going on in the world, in the United States today, from the inauguration today. What's going on in our lives from then to today? It's March. We are several weeks in. Several weeks in. Constantly changing tides. How are we navigating? How are we living, moving, and having our beingness in the midst of these changing tides? That is the point of what we are talking about this month and today. So as we move into talking about change, be mindful, as Lao Tzu said, life is a series of natural and spontaneous changes. Don't resist them. That only creates sorrow. Let reality be reality. Let things flow naturally forward in whatever way they like. Yes. Now, this does not mean that if someone is doing something wrong, let them do wrong. Let them flow naturally. If they're going to take your shirt off your back, give them your shoes too. Turn the other cheek. Go with the flow. Don't resist. This is not saying that. This is saying that when we resist the natural and spontaneous changes of life, fascism is not a natural change of life. Oppression is not a natural process of life. Racism, sexism, all of these are not a natural. He's saying don't resist the natural and spontaneous changes. It's very different. But are we mindful enough? Are we able to recognize change? What is change? What are the differences in how things change? Now, as you see on your screen right now, there is the smaller picture that's being held is what this space behind the picture looked like before it was left. When people left and nature reclaimed it, or nature is in the process of reclaiming it, that is a natural and spontaneous flow of change. What was when people moved and operated, and then people were gone, and what moved in? What was the flow that then occurred? When there are people in a space, it is very different than when those people leave the space. Nature does what nature does. The buildings cannot prevent nature from doing what nature does. How are we being invited to move with the same natural flow? The seasons flow, a natural and spontaneous change of life. And in the Tao, since we mentioned Lao Tzu, the symbol that represents this is the yin yang, the ever moving flow of, the ever present flow of. But it's not a static thing, it is a moving thing. And even the image where the yin yang is moving in one plane, it's not even that. It is a three-dimensional movement, as you see in the center. It is ever moving. And if we try to resist it, then there is sorrow, there is suffering. As Peter says, people don't resist change, they resist being changed. What does that mean? We don't resist change, but we resist being changed. I don't have a problem with America being the greatest country on the face of the planet as long as I don't have to be friends with the Negroes, because then I have to change. I don't mind the newfangled stuff as long as my wife can stay barefoot pregnant in the kitchen, because the moment she now liberated has the right to vote, I have to change. So I don't mind when these things out here change, as long as I don't have to change. It is precisely this reason that so many drank the Kool-Aid of Make America Great Again. It's precisely because of that. Because they resist being changed. Change is a normal part of our lives, as Mary Jo Asmus says, but it's uncomfortable for the vast majority of people because it makes them feel like they've lost control. Boom, pause, breathe, rewind. Change is a normal part of our lives, but it's uncomfortable for the vast majority of people. Why, Mary? Why? Because it makes them feel like they've lost control. Do you remember a time when you felt like things were being done to you that you had no control over? That's how they may feel now. In every way you can, let them know that you can relate to that. Build the connection with them that we may all evolve. So pause and think about, are there times now in my daily life now where I resist, quote unquote, resist change? Where does resistance to change show up in my life? Show up in my relationships? Show up in my family, my community? How many people have resistance towards aging? Think about the kinds of things people do because they do not want to accept wrinkles and gray hair. Now, pause. No shade to those who dye their hair or get a facelift or whatever. No shade if it's what you want to do, because it's what you want to do. But if you are doing it to somehow resist aging because of what you think wrinkles and gray hair mean or may mean for you, what kind of mental gymnastics are we then doing? What does it mean to radically accept change in the various ways that change shows up? On one end, there is the idea of resistance, the self-loathing, the fear that shows up in non-life affirming ways, the ways that we abuse ourselves. But then as we move, as we start to shift and grow, then there is self-acceptance, appreciation and gratitude, That's when we enter into greater self-care and healing. But it doesn't stop there, because as we continue to shift, evolve, and change, then we move into the space of self-love, self-worth, knowing and having the awareness that I am that which is ever becoming more of itself as me. I am. How do we move through this change? Because moving through this change then affects how all of our other things change. Because as James Baldwin said, not everything that is faced can be changed. I may not be able to change this individual. I may not be able to change this policy. I may not be able to change it. But nothing can be changed until it is faced. Racism and Jim Crow segregation, without the facing it, that people of the civil rights movement, without facing it, it was not going to change, not of its own accord. And even Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., as many things as he faced, he didn't change everything. Malcolm X didn't change everything. Stokely Carmichael didn't change everything. But certain things that they faced, they did change. What are we facing today in order to change it within ourselves and within the world? What are we not facing because we are resisting it, whatever that means? So we're not even facing it. People in New Thought who say racism doesn't exist are resisting facts and refusing to face facts, which means these things can't change. Not for them, not around them. Which means they're going to continue to operate in a way where the very thing that they're resisting is causing sorrow to themselves or someone else. Dr. Holmes says, "Nothing can hurt or disturb my spiritual self. I am free and safe. All plans and ideas can wait until later. My mind is quiet. My mind is calm. And my mind is deeply still. My body rests in the still silence of the spirit." It is important to be mindful, as I spoke about before, there are some people who resist facts being facts. There are those who also blur the lines and say nothing can hurt or disturb anyone, so go with the flow. And in the spiritual realm, as Dr. Holmes says here, nothing can disturb my spiritual self, but my physical bones can be broken. There is pain. So being mindful to recognize, yes, my spiritual self, unharmed. How do I bring that truth into my physical relative experience to know the both and? That while my body can feel pain, my body can be disturbed, my mind, mental illness, etc., psychological torment, etc., intrusive thoughts, all these things can disturb my mind, can hurt my feelings, and my spiritual self is unharmed, undisturbed, unhurt, and I am free and safe. How do we reconcile the both and of it so that we are able to live more effectively? And when he references the silence, let's go back. My body rests in the still silence of the spirit. What does that mean, the silence? Oftentimes when we think of silence, we think of the sounds and turning volume down and being quiet. We think that in meditation, we are supposed to enter into the silence. And yes, that is part of it. But oftentimes we make this the very obstacle to the silence. Our perception of what we think silence is or what silence means. Because if I'm in meditation and I'm chanting, Om Sachitananda, Parabrahma Purusho. I'm going to stop now because I know the interpreters are like, what are you doing? The idea is there's not silence, but the chanting brings me into the silence. I'm using sound, using the mantra, using the chanting, using the singing, using the singing bowl, using sound to enter into the silence. So then what is the silence then? The silence is that space that gives you access to the truth of who and what you are. Joel Goldsmith says, the mystics reveal that in silence and stillness, there lies our strength. In silence and stillness, we find God, not in the external worship, but the internal worthship. He didn't say that part, that's me. The silence is that space that gives you access, whatever it is, that gives you access to the zone. Be still and know that I am God. That is your mantra. Be still and know that I am that which is incarnating itself as me. Be still and know that I am God. And in this knowing, I know that I am safe. In this knowing, I know that I am powerful. In this knowing, I know that I am worthy, etc. When we can be still, not be running around busy and thinking, well, this meditation and this book and this class and this workshop and this quote and this affirmation and this and that and this and that and this and that and that. Be still and know. Enter into the silence, that space of there is no extraneous stuff that can distract me from the truth that I know. Now, just what is meant by the silence? A contemplation in the quiet of the mind when the objective tumult is temporarily stilled, and we rise in our consciousness to that place of pure causation, which is spirit. The silence is that space where we know and know that we know. We embody it and we live it. Silence doesn't mean the absence of sound, and silence doesn't even have to necessarily mean be still and don't move. Because there is moving meditation that gives you the opportunity to enter into the silence by way of the movements. So what gives you the ability to enter into that space of pure causation, to enter into the space where you know that there is no space between you and God? There is only God, and only God as you, as you. As Eckhart Tolle says, when you are bored, you can satisfy the mental hunger by reading a magazine, talking on the phone, surfing the internet, transferring to the body the mental feeling of lack and the need to always want something more, and satisfying them briefly. Or you can feel bored and restless and observe the feeling of being bored and restless. As you become aware of these sensations, some space and stillness will begin to emerge around them. At first, there will only be a little, but as the sense of inner space grows, the boredom will begin to diminish in intensity and significance. So even boredom can teach us, can teach you who you are and what you are and who you are not and what you are not. Don't resist the boredom. Radically accept it and flow into it. And in that space, as we flow, as we gather, we connect and we know that we are not separated. We communicate and know that we are not separated. We heal and know that we are not separated. We stand up and speak out and know that we are not separated. There is only that which God is, infinite and absolute oneness. And as we flow with greater awareness of that truth. We flow just as a surfer flows. The wave of life comes, but the surfer, the one who knows, has mastered the flow, radically accepts the energy of the flow, moves with it. Breathe. The fruits of centering and remaining in silence are evident even in daily work and activities. Suddenly you become aware of God's presence, and a greater dimension of yourself and your surroundings becomes evident. What does it mean to be centered? In whatever your activities are, what does it mean to be centered? Now, generally we talk about the center of gravity, and we can talk about it in terms of the human body, and even in activities, as it said, your daily activities, and we can identify the concept of the center of gravity in certain activities such as dance, right? Like we can look at dancers and identify, well, in order to be on balance and in order to do this, the center of gravity, we can do it with ice skaters, we can do it with roller skaters, we can we have greater awareness of what the center of gravity means in these cases. Running, we know how to be in balance as we run. For those who run, we know how to be in balance for those who walk. Even when sitting, the center of gravity has to be aligned, because the moment the center of gravity is thrown off kilter, I'm going to fall off the chair because I have shifted my center of gravity, and gravity will pull in a different way and I will fall. But what about your center of gravity when you are watching the news and you hear about another executive order that has been signed? Where is your center of gravity then? Where is your center of gravity when, if you're on your phone and you happen to, wait, what notification? And you start doom scrolling or doom surfing? Where then is your center of gravity? Like our invitation, specifically with what we do in spiritual practice, is to master the use of our center of gravity. Because in all of these, in the Japanese, the word is hara, that place in your body where your center of gravity is. In the Chinese, it's diantian, the place where qi rises, the place where qi rises and emanates. Do you have access to your metaphysical hara and tantien? Do you have access? Are you embodying it so that you are in balance and on balance at all times? Because when we are, then we understand nothing can hurt or disturb my spiritual self. I am free and safe. You remember this? My body rests in the still silence of the spirit. Is this true for you? Do you feel free and safe? Now, you may not feel free and safe externally with things that are going on. Gotcha. Even I wrestle with, am I free and safe externally as I see things change and shift? But internally, do I have access to that space where I know that I am free and safe? That I am balanced at my metaphysical hara? As if I'm not, then it's easy for anything and everything to unbalance me, because I am unbalanced outside and inside. But if I am balanced inside, and I figuratively use inside, if I am, my spiritual self, my absolute self is balanced, then it gives me greater capacity to endure and face and do whatever I need to do with whatever is going on externally. Alan Watts says, the only way to make sense out of change is to plunge into it, move with it, and join the dance. If you are not willing to risk the unusual, then you will have to settle for the ordinary. Are you willing to risk, as Jim
Roan offers us? Are you willing to risk? Or are you comfortable playing safe? Because radical acceptance and moving in the flow and all of the stuff that we were talking about, navigating the tides of life, means being willing to be uncomfortable, to risk the discomfort in order to give birth. The person giving birth is uncomfortable. Birthing pains, uncomfortable. Are we willing to feel the discomfort to birth a world that works for all? To birth a life that is healthy? Are we willing to be uncomfortable and be knocked off of the surfboard in order to master the skill of surfing? The Science of Mind and Spirit 4.0 offers us a way of remaining balanced and regaining our balance when necessary. It offers us a core principle that governs how we navigate the various changes that we encounter, regardless of what those changes may be. Societal changes, political changes, social, financial, physical. And even when the change is death, we are more equipped to release and flow into the next phase of life after life, because love is infinite, eternal, and ever expanding consciousness. We surf the waves of life with mastery, of skill, but also with artistry and beauty, to such a degree that we are far more empowered to make effective changes societally on a global scale, to create, to manifest, to demonstrate a world that works for all, because a world that works for all is a world of life affirming, evolutionary changes. Breathe. Remember that Octavia Butler has offered us all that you touch, you change. All that you change changes you. The only lasting truth is change. God is change. This week's affirmation, our declaration, I will say it first, and if it resonates with you, I invite you to say it with me the second time around. I flow in, with, through, and as the movement of life. Together. I flow in, with, through, and as the movement of life. And so it is. This week's journal questions and Sunday night and Thursday night study group questions. Number 1, when have I resisted change in my life? You had to start there. You just had to just jump right in, right? Okay. When have I resisted change in my life? 2, when have I felt like a victim? Everything bad happens to me. And even if it wasn't said that way, man, I said it the way I said it. But you feel like everything bad happens to me. And when have I been ensnared by letting my nationality or my language or my color or anything physical define me? When have I been ensnared by it? 3, when have I realized that even amid many things beyond my control, I am still, nonetheless, the architect and builder of my own life? And before you say anything, I'm going to throw out there, yes, there was a segregated South, right? There was the Jim Crow era, yes. And there were many people of color who said, you know what? I understand that I may not be able to control X, Y, and Z, but I'm not going to let that diminish who and what I am in my life and how I live it. It's one of the reasons why Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, many others, Mary McLeod Bethune, etc., we're like, no, it's on my terms, not theirs. Number 4, what do I do to realign my center of gravity when things happen in life that knock me off balance? Whether that happens emotionally or psychologically or spiritually, what do I do to get back in balance, back on balance, to realign? And what kinds of things tend to be able to knock me off balance? What triggers me and sets me off? And then lastly, what am I invited to do more of or less of to be able to navigate the tides of life more effectively? There is something that I need to do more of to navigate, and something I need to do less of. Doom scrolling, less of that to navigate more effectively. Meditation, more of to navigate effectively. What am I invited to do either more or less of? And breathe as we enter into that space of the infinite knowing, that space, that silence where we know that there is only what God is, and what it is we are. And it is in this space, this infinite awareness, that we are in and on balance to such a degree that we are balance itself. That we are so anchored that nothing, no person, no policy, no principles, nothing can unbalance us from the truth of who and what we are. There is no lie powerful enough to convince us to fall for it. We stand in and as the very power of creation itself. We stand in and as the very power of creation itself. As Joel Goldsmith says, or has said, there is no need for us to be resurrected, for we are the resurrection itself. I am that which I am, ever becoming more of what God is as me. With every breath, I recognize and embody more of the divinity that I am. With every thought, I think God's thoughts, God's thinking itself as me. One mind, one life, oneness. So we breathe and enter into that space, that infinite silence that is ever with us, with every breath, with every thought. That which God is, and what it is, I am. Breathe. And so it is. And so it is. Blessings. Today being the first Sunday of the month, well, you may not know, we have after service, after message fellowship. So if you're joining, I will see you over in Zoom. And if not, I will see you somewhere during the week. Blessings, love, and appreciation. See you soon.